पियो बात मारौँ आज हामी दुई गफ गरौँ. Hello and welcome to the second episode of The Sex Lives of Kathmandu Girls, a toxic relationship. I am Dawa Didi and with me today is your Binazu.
John.
Hi John.
Hello, Dawa.
The toxic relationship in the title that we're going to be talking about is a relationship that I was in when I was much younger than I am now. If you have listened to the previous episode, you will know that in the previous episode I talked about my very first attempt at having sex and how it did not work out.
Emphasis on attempt.
Yes. And today we're going to be talking about a relationship that I had with the same person that I was attempting to have sex with. So it might help you to have a little bit of a context if we go back. But if you don't, it's fine. I think it will still make sense for you.
Yeah.
The only thing I will add is that I had dubbed the ex-boyfriend Finance Bro. So, John, how would you describe a finance bro?
Off the top of my head, someone who is particularly interested in economics.
Money making?
Yeah, someone who is particularly interested in economics more as a means of, providing themselves with lots of money, of making lots of money, of getting rich quick.
Yes.
Basically. So, obviously there are people interested in economics as more of a theoretical thing because they find it interesting, they want to learn about it. There are people interested in economics as, because they want to, run a business to provide for themselves. Finance bros are a specific type of, people who are interested in economics and economic systems, primarily just because they want to figure out how to best exploit those systems for their own gain. Purely for their own selfish gain,
Yeah. So, Finance Bro was a very, very charming person.
Yeah.
He had the ability to make friends with anyone and make them feel really, like he was listening to them.
Yeah.
And also, he had a way of basically getting into a room and just making the entire space feel a lot lighter, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? He was very well liked.
Yeah. Very charismatic.
Yes, charismatic is, actually a lot of people have described him as charismatic. At least they used to describe him as charismatic.
Used to.
I mean, I don't know now. I haven't spoken to him in years. So he was a very charismatic person, very well liked, and he also liked to come across as very intelligent.
Yeah.
In confidence, he had said to me that he knows he's not as clever as other people think he is.
Yeah.
And very often, he would engage in basically blagging. He would pretend to know more about something than he does. And he had said to me that he has found, as long as you speak with confidence on a subject, most people won't question you on what your knowledge level is.
I mean, it also helps if you're talking about a subject that those other people don't know about either.
I think it also helps if you are cis, straight male.
Yeah.
And also, in Nepal, you're Brahmin.
Yeah.
Which is what he was.
Basically part of
that would not have worked for me, John. Let me tell you that.
Was he handsome as well?
He was tall, and like I've said, he was decent looking.
Attractive.
I wouldn't go so far as to say, conventionally. I'd say he was decent looking. I'm not going to say... He wasn't,
helps.
overly handsome. He wasn't overly ugly. He was, decent looking.
That usually helps, though.
Right? Yeah, he was tall, conventionally, I don't know. Conventionally, decent looking. He was also, very confident. He projected an idea of... he projected confidence, right? And also, he was very, very aware of the fact that if he spoke with confidence on a subject, people would consider him to know more than he did.
Yeah.
And when he said that to me, I remember thinking that has never been my experience. Because a lot of times I would be a person who actually knows quite a bit about a subject, but people would, not take me seriously.
They'd dismiss you.
The reason for that was obviously because I was female.
Yeah.
And also I am from a minority ethnicity.
Yeah.
A lot of times I actually found that people would assume that I was dumber than I am.
Yeah.
And would generally just dismiss me on the, get-go, not even listen to me very much.
Yeah.
And unless I pushed myself quite, a lot, right? They would basically dismiss me. And if against all odds in their eyes, they saw that I'm clever, they'd be very, quote unquote, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And also, they didn't feel like it was anything wrong to let me know that they were surprised. And that the reason that they were surprised was because I am Bhote.
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, that was my experience, just to let you know. So the only reason that he got away with being able to, you know, basically project greater knowledge than he
Yeah.
actually has was because of the fact that he was a cis, straight, Brahmin man. But also, of course, Finance Bro was not the kind of person who would acknowledge his advantages.
No.
Yeah, the only, you know, acknowledgement he would give would be to his own abilities. He would say the reason things work out for him was because he was charismatic, he knew how to talk to people, he, you know,
never really
was
acknowledged
resourceful.
Never acknowledged the sociocultural like advantages he also
No.
had as well.
He would, you know, so I remember actually, I should have considered this a bit of a red flag. Early on in our relationship, he had said to me, he's okay with feminists, he doesn't like feminazis.
Okay, yeah. I remember that term. I remember when that was like all the rage to say when like online when I was like young. And I remember at school one of my classmates had like said that to one of my teachers she was a very devout Muslim, and she like absolutely lambasted him. I don't think she really understood the context, but she was like quite rightfully being like, how could you like put those two words together? That's really, really horrible thing to say. And he was like frantically trying to explain to her, no, it actually means this, and he was like, I don't care.
Yeah. So
Like,
John,
bruh.
you are a fairly internet literate man, and you are also a cis straight man.
Yeah.
And you are white.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got quite a lot of those things common with Finance Bro. Finance Bro was the top, like, you know, top of the dogs in Nepal. You are, you know, the top. You are in the same category, I suppose, in
Strictly
the UK.
speaking, yes, I guess. It's
So
a bit weird
I just wanted to.
myself.
The reason that I'm bringing this up is because I said that you're internet literate, and you just mentioned that you are familiar with feminazis. I was just wondering if you could, you know, tell me more about who feminazis were for this particular group of people on the internet.
So it's a very difficult. It's a very complex subject, but basically, it's just the idea of like a feminist is someone who like. This is from okay. So this is me sort of like explaining from the perspective. This is not what I actually think, but like a feminist is someone who is a woman who is trying to push for women's rights in a reasonable and understandable way, whereas a feminazi who is someone who is like a man hater or something like that. She just hates men unreasonably and like comes up with a lot of weird stuff. But in reality, the reason a lot of women got the feminazi label was because they were pushing for more progressive things that society just wasn't comfortable with at the time.
Right.
There was like it's a thing I'm only really learning about a bit more recently, but like there was a sense when I was personally growing up that like we defeated racism, we've defeated sexism, and the assumption is then obviously I'm not sexist, obviously I'm not racist. So if someone then turns and also your conception of feminism and sexism and racism is like on an individual level.
It's also very cartoonishly evil.
Yeah, it's cartoonishly evil. It's like
you're sexist if you say all women should be in the kitchen and should be illiterate and shouldn't be allowed an education, blah blah blah.
Yeah, but there's no acknowledgement of like more institutional forms, systemic forms, or like very subtle forms. And someone who points that out is then considered a feminazi, and they're like they're characterized as a screeching harpy or whatever, like someone who's complaining. There's a lot of like
very funny that they don't see that caricature itself is sexist.
Oh yeah, no, obviously. There's a lot of interesting things, like there's a lot of like things I can point to, like examples of like women who have had like videos taken of them that were taken out of context and then were made into like symbols of being a feminazi. Mm-hmm. The two off the top of my head, the names of them are like Big Red and Trigglypuff.
What?
Yeah.
What's that?
It's basically two women. There's these two women. Like it's
who named them? What? Where do these names come from?
So Big Red, it was this woman who she was just in a video. I think she was like just like talking about something or other. She was like a woman at a protest.
So she called herself Big Red, or that's a name given to her?
That was a name given to her.
Okay.
No. So there's this woman who was like at a like a protest or something. Someone was interviewing her, and I don't remember exactly what was going on, but she, I think, responded in an annoyed way to a few comments that they made. And people interpreted that as her being like a dick.
Yeah.
And so they started using her as like a symbol of a feminazi or whatever. That's not so bad. The whole Trigglypuff is, I think it's quite mean of a name, to be honest. But basically, it's used to refer to this woman in this other video where she was like in a crowd of people at like I don't know, is it a university or something? I don't know the full context, but someone on stage had said something that she didn't like a lot of the other women in the crowd didn't like, and so they started shouting and complaining, as they do, and unfortunately, not for her, this isn't unfortunate, but like people are fat phobic, and she was a bit she was a bit fat, and people people called her Trigglypuff because she was getting triggered,
God.
and Jigglypuff from like Pokemon.
Oh god, that's worse than I thought it was.
Yeah, like I said, and the thing is, these are coming from people who, like, in their minds think, we've defeated sexism, we've defeated racism, and their conception of sexism and racism is on like an individual level. Mm-hmm. So they're like, well, why would you complain about sexism? I'm not a sexist, or why, there's no sexism. We're not telling you to get back in the kitchen. You can go to work. Why are you complaining about this sort of stuff? And so the conception is then that people who push for these progressive like things, or like try to make changes to institutional sexism, are people complaining about things that don't need to be complained about.
Yeah.
And thus they're called feminazis.
Yeah, well that's right.
It's
also,
just a vehicle for further sexism, basically.
Going back to the topic of Finance Bro, because that's what we're here to talk about, Also, Finance Bro believed that one could be conditioned to become gay. Yes, I remember I used to have strange. a lot of long discussions with him, and he used to do this thing. I don't know if many other people can relate, but there's this thing that some cis men do, like straight men do, which is so infuriating, where when you're trying to have a discussion with them, like telling them that you don't agree with them, that their opinions are incorrect for these reasons, they argue back with a smile in their face that clearly is very patronizing. So they'd be like, no, come on, no,
I know exactly why.
And so that was something that he would do all the time whenever I would argue with him about feminism, about LGBT issues. He would basically be like, talk to me as if he was indulging me. Right.
It's like you're wrong by default. He knows you're wrong. He's just listening to you say all the wrong things.
He's like, oh, this cute little thing has opinions.
He's already, like, the things you're trying to talk to him about, he's already made up his opinions, and he's not actually listening to you to change his opinions. He's just humoring you.
Also, I remembered another thing that he did, which was very infuriating. Which was that he came up with a nickname for me, and I said I don't like the nickname.
And he kept doing it.
And he insisted on using it. He constantly continued to use that nickname, even after we broke up. Even when, not only me, but other people, in our friend circle was telling him,
Bro,
to stop.
Bro,
basically.
Stop. That's me. Like, don't do that. That's shitty.
That's a red flag, which I should have noted quite early on as well. So, like I said, I was quite young. I was, in my early 20s doing this relationship. And even though I had a lot of theoretical ideas about feminism, about, equal rights, I think basically a lot of the things that I knew, I hadn't internalized. Also, it came at a point where basically, because obviously a lot of women in Nepal, across the world really, are raised in a way to make themselves think of themselves as secondary. Right? They're like, self-esteem is not something that is inculcated in them. Right? So a lot of the ideas of feminism, of, equality, of respect, of like something as basic as respect, was just something that I was learning quite, as an adult, or like as a young adult, basically. Mm-hmm. So there was a gap between what I knew theoretically and what I felt. Right? Which is why, even though he insisted on giving me a nickname that I said I don't want, and he would just laugh and keep using it anyway.
What a prick, right? Man.
Yeah. He would, smile patronizingly whenever we'd have discussions about things that I had a different opinion on. Right? And basically, in general, he, portrayed this image of knowing more about the world, because he was like 2 or 3 years older than me. Than I did. So that was already a pretty, quite a lot of red flags from the very start of the relationship. But, obviously, there were good things there as well. The reason why I stayed on. Like I said, there was a lot of love bombing early on in the relationship. We had
certainly speaking isn't a good thing.
I mean, we had late night conversations where I would talk about, my dreams, my conception of self, what I would like from my life, what my life has been like so far. And he would listen to me, and we'd have conversations about things that were very intimate. And that was one thing that, I really, really valued. And also we'd actually have a lot of fun time as well. We'd hang out, we'd, have lots of laughs. We had some common hobbies, and all of those things really, basically made me fall in love with him.
Okay.
And also, like I mentioned, he was a very charming man.
Yeah. He had that from the start, didn't he?
Yes, he did. So I think at this point, I also want to tell you a little bit about what Finance Bro liked to do in his free time. So Finance Bro was obviously a university student like me at that time.
Yeah.
Right, he was in the same uni as I was.
Yeah.
What he liked to do in his free time was basically what a lot of straight cis men like to do in Kathmandu.
Yeah.
Which was he liked to play FIFA with his male friends.
To be honest, a lot of men in London do that.
Yeah, they play. I think it's like fantasy football, FIFA. I don't really know. Something along those lines. Whatever, like some football related games. He liked to play football with the male friends in real life as well.
Yeah.
And he liked to smoke a lot of weed.
Okay.
Right.
Very standard male interest.
Yes. So, in that our interests overlapped.
Yeah.
Because while not anymore, but at uni, I like to smoke a lot of weed as well.
Massive pothead.
Yes. That was one of the things that, actually got us together, because we would hang out smoking weed quite often.
To be fair, I have heard weed is like really good at getting people together, isn't it?
Yes. Especially at university. So, in retrospect, I just realized, I was thinking a lot more about this relationship. I haven't thought about it in years, but I was thinking a lot more about this relationship because of the fact that we're going to be doing this podcast. And in retrospect, I realized that he never really hung out with any of my friends.
No.
Right? So we had different friend groups because we were obviously in different classes.
Yeah.
And also he had an existing friend group from his school years, right? Yeah. And he'd spend a lot of time with them to smoke weed.
Yeah.
So then what he did was he basically would ask me to hang out with them.
Yeah.
But he would never hang out with my own friends.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, I believe that was because he thought they were, I don't know, I think because they were obviously a few years younger than him, and so he felt like there was a gulf there.
I mean, to be honest, there's already like an element of him patronizing you.
Mm-hmm.
It's entirely possible he was also extending that same thing to your friends, but
also,
he wasn't in a relationship with them, so he wasn't inclined to
Also, in the context of Kathmandu, in Kathmandu or in Nepal, if you have if somebody is a year older than you, you call them Didi, you call them Dai.
Yeah.
There's already this hierarchy that's established, and a couple of years is enough for you to establish that hierarchy. So my friends would call him Dai.
Yeah.
Right? And he would definitely, and by the way, just to let you know, he was maybe 3 years older than them.
Yeah.
And, we were all in our early 20s.
Yeah.
Okay? But still there was this
gulf
for some reason, and he didn't spend time with them. He would always invite me to hang out with his friends, and that's something that I never really it never clicked. I remember my friends complaining about the fact that I don't spend as much time with them anymore because I spend all of my free time with him, right? But it was just something that I didn't really think too much about at that time.
I mean, that also tends to happen in your first relationship, and it happened with me in my first relationship as well.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's not that I was spending a lot of time with him.
Yeah.
It's that I was only spending time with him and his friends.
And
he was not sacrificing any time with his own friends. It wasn't a situation where he wasn't hanging out with his friends and they were complaining that, he's not spending as much time.
Fair
that
enough.
part wasn't going on.
Fair enough, yeah. Fair enough.
There's more to that. So also, when we started dating, he asked me not to even though he invited me with his friends, he asked me to make sure that to not let any of his friends know that we were dating.
Yeah.
Right?
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason that he said was because obviously these were his school friends, and he said that so there was this one person, this other woman in the group. So there was a group of 7, 8 boys and one other girl, right?
Okay.
And she was a partner of one of the other people in the same group, right?
Yeah.
Now she and I are best friends. At that time, I was only just meeting her, and basically, apparently, she was friends with his ex, and he didn't want his ex to know that he started dating.
Okay.
It sounds
So it's still revolving around him and what makes him comfortable.
Yeah, basically, I remember at that time it sort of made sense to me, but in retrospect, it just sounds very weird that he cared so much about what would happen with him, and I get with him and his ex, and I can get that it might be a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation.
It's awkward, yeah.
Yeah. It was months. We kept the relationship. So we were together for 7 months. I think the first 3-4 months, that's how long he asked me not to tell anyone.
Yeah.
And initially I was okay with it. right?
Yeah.
But then in the same friend circles, they'd ask me questions like, oh, Dawa, do you have a boyfriend? Are you dating? Like, just like things that you ask.
Yeah.
And I remember one of them was like, oh, we know this person who would be really good for you. I want to set you up,
Yeah.
And while this whole conversation was happening, he would just sit there,
Chilling.
not chilling, basically, not saying anything. And it was incredibly uncomfortable for me.
That is weird, yeah.
And interestingly, now I know that I'm not the only girl who's experienced this. I've actually spoken to many other girls
Yeah.
who say that in one of their first or second relationships, one of their early relationships,
Yeah.
they had a male partner who asked that the relationship be kept secret from their friends, from some family, from some group or the other.
Yeah.
Because from from the work group or whatever, because it would be inconvenient for them to share this.
Yeah.
Right?
So the inconvenience has to be passed on to the woman.
Yes. So it made me feel very, very small. It made me feel, like, obviously there's this discomfort of keeping something, for reasons that, don't fully make sense. But also as time went on, I felt like, our relationship's been going on for a few months now.
Yeah.
And you still want to keep it a secret. It makes me feel like you want to make sure that when you get out of the relationship, it doesn't complicate matters too much. Does that make sense?
It's like it feels like you're artificially trying to make it so the relationship just never goes beyond a certain point.
Mm-hmm. It felt like, he wanted to contain me
Yeah.
and whatever we had in like this like sterile environment where it wouldn't affect
completely
others.
separate from his rest of his social circle.
Yeah, basically,
So he could just cut it off at whatever time, whenever it was convenient.
yeah, whatever. I don't know. It felt very like demeaning.
Yeah.
It felt very humiliating. It was very uncomfortable overall, right? And I remember like this was going on for a few months. At one point, it was so upsetting for me. I gave him an ultimatum. So
Yeah.
we used to hang out with them nearly daily, at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Mhm.
Okay? So I said to him one time when we were hanging out with them, I said to him, if you don't, this time when we go and hang out with them, this group of friends, if you don't let them know that we are dating,
Yeah.
then we're going to be broken up.
Yeah.
At the end of this like hangout, you and I are no longer going to be a couple.
If you don't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember that hangout as if it happened yesterday. Because I remember sitting there initially, and he, by the way, he said he would. He said, sure, I'm going to let them know this time around. So
Yeah.
we were there smoking weed, passing around joints, watching some stupid, I don't know, whatever on telly. And I said that as time went on, people were having conversations about all kinds of mundane things, about their lives, about, their universities, about things going on in their lives. And I was waiting as, the clock ticked. We were there for several hours, and as the time passed on, the more my heart sank. Like,
Yeah.
the heavier and heavier it felt within my stomach. And I remember at the end of it, he was like, hey, Dawa, I'll drop you off home.
What a piece of shit, dude.
Yeah. And I remember, fighting tears, because how would I explain to these group of people who are not really my friends, who were more their friends, his friends, why I was suddenly crying? So I had to be like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry the whole time. As hours passed by, I kept looking at the clock, being like, okay, it's 4 o'clock now. We're leaving at 6. Maybe he will, say something now. It's 5 now. Maybe he'll say something now.
I'm so
It's
sorry
6
you had to
now.
go through that.
And he says, okay, I'll drop you off home now. And then I remember going home, and I remember feeling, is my relationship over?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And I texted him saying, you know what, you don't have to tell them. And he said thanks. And a smiley face.
What a piece of shit.
Yes. And like I said, for some reason or another, this is not an experience limited to me, actually. I know quite a few friends who have gone through that. And, to be honest, I want to ask these men why they do that. The only thing that I can come up with is that they value the status quo of their lives more than, like the well-being of their supposed girlfriends or their partners.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
They lack the emotional maturity to realize that they shouldn't be stringing you along.
I feel like it was basically that, for them, we were not complete humans, basically.
No.
We were just like a, and I don't know,
You're almost like an animal. They just need to meet most of the needs of.
Yeah.
And manage your discomfort
yeah,
to a level where you won't lash out or whatever.
yeah,
You're not a full person to them.
yes,
They don't
that's
empathize
how
with
it felt.
They
And-
prioritize their own emotional happiness over yours.
I think when I look back, I don't have as much. I definitely don't have any anger or resentments towards Finance Bro. I mean, like, I've let go of that. You just go, Finance Bro, I hope you're having the best life. You know, I hope you're happy, fulfilled, you know.
I don't.
Okay, that's a bit much. It was many years ago. And you know what? I'm going to give Finance Bro the grace of, you know, perhaps he has grown, because I certainly have from that time.
Yeah, cool.
You know, he's already, you know, a Dai, I'm sure, as well. If I'm a Didi, then he must be a Dai, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I just hope that, you know, whatever's going on in your life, I wish you well. But I feel a lot more like, you know, when I look back, I think about myself a lot more, and I feel a lot of, like, sadness for the person that I was.
Yeah.
The person who would allow this to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and this was not even the worst that happened in the relationship. There was quite a lot more, you know, things.
I'm so sorry.
You know, as the relationship wore on, I could feel that Finance Bro was no longer as interested in me.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, there were very clear indicators of that. So, for example, one thing that Finance Bro would do would be, you know, he would ask me to come and hang out with him outside of his house. There was like a tea apostle, like a tea shop outside his home, and he asked me to come and hang out with him. Bear in mind that early in our relationship, he would be very happy to drop me home, come pick me up, and all that, right? You know, as the relationship wore on, he would say, "Oh, that's too far and inconvenient for me, so I'll drop you off halfway to your home."
Yeah, because at some point he felt like he wasn't getting as much out of the relationship, so he didn't feel like.
Yeah, I don't. Whatever it was.
It's very much like a, you know, what was it? Equivalent exchange.
Whatever it was that he was, you know, looking for, he wasn't getting, basically.
Yeah.
Eventually it reached a point where when we were hanging out, we would meet outside his house.
Oh my God.
Or outside university, where he'd be going anyway.
Yeah. At his own convenience. Obviously.
Yes. So there would be many times when he'd ask me to meet at the Tia Pasal outside his house. I'm gonna, you know, talk about this one time. Basically what happened was he asked me to meet him. I can't remember exactly what time it was, but I'm going to say 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
So he said to me, "Oh, I've got this, you know, I have this hangout with my friends where we're going to hang out and play, you know, FIFA or whatever."
Yeah.
Right? At 12. I'm hanging out with them at 12 p.m. Why don't you come down at 8? We'll have breakfast together.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'll drop you off halfway to the point wherever is most convenient for him, and then I could go home.
Yeah.
Right? So I got there at 8 a.m. I ordered Sansia, and I sat there waiting for hours. I sent him multiple texts. He didn't reply. I tried to ring him. He didn't answer. So 8 o'clock became 8:30, became 9, became 9:30, became 10, became 10:30 as well. And then around close-ish to 11, maybe 10:45 or so, or something like that, he then finally texts back saying, "Oh, sorry, I just woke up."
I just woke up.
Yeah. And I said, "I've been waiting for you for like multiple hours now." And he said, "Okay, I gotta get up and I'll come." I said, "Okay, now come down right away." Because I was, by the way, right outside his house. So it was across the street from his house. And he says to me, and he knows that I've been waiting there for multiple hours at this point.
Yeah.
And he says to me, "Well, my mum has made me breakfast. I gotta eat that. Then I gotta take a shower. And then I'll come out."
Oh my God. He's not in any rush.
No, he's not in any rush, knowing that I've been there for multiple hours.
He's got to make sure, you know, he eats the breakfast that Mummy made for him.
Yes. Well, that's what he did. He then also, by the way, sent me photos of the food as proof.
What?
Look, I'm not just saying this. My mum will be really cross if I don't eat this. He sent me
you photos of food to someone
of the food.
Presumably has been sitting in a cafe not eating much.
Yeah. By the way, I had not eaten breakfast.
You hadn't had breakfast,
no.
so he sent you photos of food.
Yeah. I was
You're probably
drinking
really
tea.
hungry when you sent that. What a prick.
And so I was like, whatever, just like come out as soon as possible. And then he came out like 11:30 or so, and he told me I can't stay for more than 5 minutes because I have to go and meet my friends at 12. He said, I'll smoke a cigarette with you and that's it.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. There was another time as well when he asked me to meet him outside of university. So I didn't have any class that day. But he said he had class, I think it was 9 a.m. And he said, "Why don't you come down outside the university?" So there was another tea apostle. So like another thing to add, you know, young people in Kathmandu, I don't know if they still do that, but at least when I was young in Kathmandu, we used to love hanging out in tea apostles.
Yeah.
That's like the place where we'd sit there, we'd drink tea. That's what we did. You know. So basically, he asked me to come outside come and wait for him at this tea apostle at 7 a.m. He said his class was at 9. He said he'd come down at 7. We would hang out. Again, you know, we'd hang out for a couple of hours and then he'd go back to his class, right?
Yeah.
So I was there at 7 a.m. and also the tea apostle the guy in that Sia Puzzle who operated that Sia Puzzle knew me and him already because this was the university Sia Puzzle. We used to hang out there all the time, right?
Yeah.
So he knew why I was there. He was aware of the fact that I was waiting for this guy.
Yeah.
For Finance Bro. So, again, I drank 4 or 5 cups of tea as I sat there waiting for him. The Sia Puzzle guy felt bad for me. And he said, okay, you know what? The tea is free. The next tea is free. You don't have to pay for it.
Oh my God.
You know? And he would do this thing where like
shopkeeper had more empathy for you than your
yeah,
boyfriend.
he felt so bad for me. Basically what he would do is, so the Sia Puzzle is like across this road, right? And there was the road right outside.
Yeah.
So anytime he would hear by the way, Finance Bro used to ride a motorbike.
Yeah.
So anytime he'd hear a motorbike passing, Sia Puzzle guy would stick his head out to look to see if it was Finance Bro.
Yeah.
Right? And he was doing that a bunch of times. And at one point, so remember his class starts at 9.
Yeah.
So 5 minutes after 9, he's coming down the road. Sia Puzzle guy sees him, says, Biney, he's here. He comes back in, says, Biney, he's here.
Yeah.
And then the guy just drives straight into the university and texts me saying, sorry, I'm running late for class, so I can't come out and hang out with you.
What a freaking prick, man. Why would he even... I do wonder why he even asked you to hang out in the first place.
Well, he said his alarm didn't work. That happened to him quite often.
The thing is that I do wonder why he made the plans in the first place. If in the end he got cold feet, or he didn't even make much... Sounds like he didn't even make much of an effort to even go in the first place.
Yes.
If he only woke up at 10 after asking to meet you at 8.
Yeah.
I'm really interested. I mean, I'm not gonna like the answer. I'm gonna punch him, but...
You don't want to ask him why he was doing that.
I'd really like to know why exactly. It's gonna, and I'm not gonna like the answer, but it does make me curious.
We can only speculate on why he was doing that. Well, one thing is for sure, he didn't have a lot of respect for me.
No,
he didn't really, respect my time. He didn't really care about my feelings. Otherwise he wouldn't have been treating me like that.
Yeah.
That is for sure. Again, like I said, we can only speculate on why he did what he did. But I can tell you about how I was feeling and why I did that.
Yeah.
Well, I felt humiliated and small, and I felt alone and isolated.
Yeah.
I have talked to my friends from that time, so other friends who went to university who were also in relationship with other guys, and they didn't tell me much then. But now they've told me that they had very similar experiences with their own boyfriends.
Yeah.
One of my friends talked about how she was waiting for 2 hours for a boyfriend to show up, and it was raining hard. She had an umbrella, and then he showed up. Others talked about how they would be actually verbally abusive and say the meanest things. One thing I'll say about Finance Bro, he was only emotionally abusive. He was never verbally or physically abusive.
Wow, what a high bar to clear.
Yeah, I know. So,
Jesus
but
Christ.
I know of girls, the same age as me, went to the same university, in relationships with other guys, who, by the way, would never communicate these things to each other. We never talked about this with one another.
Yeah.
We had this weird sense of loyalty. The reason I didn't was because I had this weird sense of loyalty towards Finance Bro.
This piece of shit.
Yeah, because I, was insanely in love with this guy at that time.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way that girls are taught to love, in Kathmandu, maybe outside of Kathmandu as well, maybe in Nepal, outside of Nepal as well.
I think it's quite widespread.
Yeah, is basically we're told that your love isn't true unless it is all encompassing, it's accepting of flaws,
Yeah.
and it's unconditional. So if it's unconditional, that means you accept their flaws, right? And there's also this whole notion of how oh my God, I can fix him,
Yeah.
and it's so deeply ingrained. I used to feel, there was a part of me that felt like whenever he did these things to me, I felt like, oh, it's because I haven't loved him hard enough, enough.
It's victim blaming. It's your fault, basically.
And
It's your fault that he doesn't love you properly.
yeah, I felt like, oh, maybe I'm not being the right girlfriend, basically.
good
I'm not,
enough.
yeah, I'm not doing something right,
If he's being a shitty
And-
boyfriend, it's because you're not a good enough girlfriend.
Yeah, I
Jesus
felt-
Christ.
and also, even when he treated me so badly, I didn't break up with him because, well, of course I was madly in love with him. I didn't want to break up. I wanted our relationship to work.
Yeah.
I was unable to see that it wasn't working and that was hurting me. But also, I felt like this is what I deserved. There's a part of me that felt like, this is just what relationships are. And I also felt like I couldn't talk to other people about it.
Yeah. You felt like you had to suffer alone.
Yes, because I felt like, I think there was also a part of me that felt like if I talked to someone else and I told them what was going on, it would be real.
Yeah.
You know? And the funny thing is, people saw what was going on. Other people would tell me, like, you know, Finance Bro is treating you terribly. Why the hell are you with this guy?
Yeah.
You know? And ditch it. Like, people would tell me, ditch him, like, you know? And, but I don't know, just, it's... One thing that I will say is that, you know, like, right now, I'm very happy. I'm in a relationship with a loving, kind man who also has a lot of respect for me.
He's strangely handsome.
Very, yes. He's also very, very handsome.
Interesting to meet this man.
But, you know, it wasn't necessarily that, you know, oh, now that I have a good relationship, I'm healed. I think in general, I have already learned to love myself more.
Yeah.
You know, I've learned, you know, to look back and realize that, you know, I was worth more than what it was. What I was letting other people treat me like, you know.
And it's not about finding someone else to fix you or finding someone else to fix. It's about finding someone else, if you want to, of course, as well.
Yeah.
The good thing, having a relationship is about finding someone else to be with, and hopefully that, you know, you can both help each other to grow.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't always, it's not always in a good way, but ideally in as good a way as possible.
Yeah. I wrote a very little, like, cheesy, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit cheesy thing. I wrote a little thing because I was thinking about the girl that I was, this 21-year-old girl, like, you know, fighting tears, because also at the time I was quite toxic masculine. Women can have toxic masculinity too, by the way. I was quite toxic masculine and it felt like I can't let people see me crying. So I was fighting tears in those various multiple chiapasos and all those different rooms where I was being treated so badly. I feel like if I, you know, I was just thinking about what I would like to say to her if I could go back in time. And I wrote like a short paragraph.
Yeah.
Shall I read it?
Go for it. I would like to hear it.
Okay. So, it is okay. This is not about you. And this does not reflect what you're worth. Someday you will learn that you deserve more kindness and grace because you are a person. You will learn to love yourself. You will learn to treat yourself with kindness, and you will not suffer fools who don't do so. It is painful now, I know. It feels so wretchedly lonely and isolating. But soon you will learn that there are people outside who know to give you the love and kindness you deserve. Most of all, yourself.
That's really beautiful. If she asked you, how long is that going to take?
Now, I don't think it was like something like, oh, you know, it took 5 years, and then after that I randomly had like this happen. I think it was more of a growth. It was a progression.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
These things don't happen overnight, obviously.
Yeah. But anyway.
It's very beautiful.
Bhai Bahini Aru, whoever's listening in. So, that particular thing that I wrote is also for you. Don't suffer fools. You are worth more than you realize. You are worth more because you're a person.
If someone's being a dick to you, it's not because it has nothing to do with you. It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because they're a dick.
Yes. Well, we're now at the part of the podcast where we talk about weird things that men have said relating to sex.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a particular one that a particular man, well, it was Finance Bro, said to me in our relationship. So he said if he did not ejaculate once he got hard, he will immediately get blue balls.
Okay.
And I obviously believed him. I used to feel really bad.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Oh, wow.
Yes, so basically...
Did you think he knew he was lying, or do you think he genuinely believed... Do you think he had such a poor understanding of male physiology he genuinely believed that?
I don't know. What I do know is that it made me feel really bad.
Yeah.
Because obviously sometimes we'd have like heavy makeout sessions and he would get hard.
Yeah.
And then he would say, oh, now I'm going to get really blue balls. Can you give me a hand job?
Okay.
Until he would, you know, ejaculate.
It just sounds like he was just lying, to be honest.
Yeah. And obviously he always managed to get him to ejaculate. So I would feel really, really bad for him. And he would be like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And then I remember one time, you know, this was like somewhere at university. We were in like this room in a university.
Yeah.
And we had like a big, heavy, like
Make-out session,
session. And, you know, I'd been jerking him off. I'd been giving him a hand job for a bit. But obviously I hadn't managed to get him to come. And then afterwards he was like, ow, like I'm in pain because I've got blue balls.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling so, so bad.
I feel really bad. I feel really bad for you. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
really interesting how in this and in many other ways, it's not just Finance Bro, by the way. Finance Bro has been a big villain of the last two episodes, but there have been other men as well who have very often made it my responsibility, to get them off, basically. And
Yeah.
somehow if they didn't get to come, then I was the villain.
It's because you were responsible for them not being able to come, basically.
Yeah, basically, I was at fault for seducing them in the first place and getting
Yeah.
them hard. To the listeners out there, you don't have any obligation to make someone come, even if you have been, giving them a hand job or sucking their dick or
Yeah.
having sex. Even if you've been having sex and halfway through you decide, you know what, I don't want to have sex anymore. It's completely within your right to stop.
Any and all sexual acts are fundamentally a consensual thing that two or more parties engage in, and
Yes.
both of them have to want to continue for it to continue.
Yeah. So, John, you tell me, how much truth is there in the whole, blue balls thing?
So, well, I mean, blue balls are a thing, from my experience, yes, but they don't happen from getting erect, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone having that happen. Maybe there are some very strange edge cases, but from my understanding of male physiology, blue balls are just a thing that happens when you have a lot of seminal fluid collecting in the pipes between your balls and your penis, basically. And the main ways I found out that has happened is through long edging sessions, pretty much. So, for me in the past, I used to, do the sort of, edge for, multiple hours, and it would usually be, after an hour or two of just constantly edging, my balls would start aching. And it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but, it did ache. But, it goes away after a while anyway. The seminal fluid clears up,
Yeah, I just looked it up, basically, as well, as you were explaining it to me, and it basically says it's something that can happen if you've been aroused for an extended period and you don't orgasm.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cause any harm, and it usually goes away quickly on its own. So,
Yeah, it's not anyone else's responsibility, to be honest,
yeah,
to clean it up for you.
that's right.
To be honest.
That's right.
But yeah.
Anyway, it was lovely to have this conversation, and I hope that you will see us again in the next episode.
Yes, next time we'll be talking about some other very silly stuff that men have come up with, and I'll be here to help debunk the silliness.
Yeah, and also we'll dive deeper into your Dawa Didi's, sad past relationships.
Sad.
Sometimes sad. Actually, not always
Not
sad.
always sad. There's always, it's not always dark.
There have been some moments of levity as well.
Yes.
But anyway, you have a lovely day, listeners. Bye.
Bye.
चिया पियौँ भात मार्यौँ आज हामी दुईले गफ गफ गर्यौँ